I'm Sarah Cooper. I'm AWS's, ooh, that got a little louder, AWS's GM for IoT solutions. So I own the part of the stack where we start bringing functional components together, build up all those infrastructure pieces. I've been with AWS for about 4 months. So one of the reasons I've done IoT for 15 years. But one of the reasons that AWS was such an attractive employer was a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which is that devices, which used to be out in the field, well, they are out in the field for 10 to 15 years. It used to be that you had to kind of predict how customers were going to be using that device in 10 years, in 15 years, in 5 years. Technology, I don't know how many of you are using the same cell phone from 5 years ago. I've gone through about 6. So that's not how technology works anymore. Having the building blocks that AWS brings to the table to be able to constantly reinvent what that, since we're at reinvent what that product is and does and means to the end user, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I'll go through a few of some of the kind of common design patterns that we see connected product customers using. And then I'm going to hand over, and I'm going to try to move quickly, since we're starting a couple minutes late, and give the floor to Olga, who will talk through what Pitney Bowes has been going through and moving their products into something that constantly stays relevant, particularly in the small business, medium, enterprise, office space market. But we see this at small connected products, the things that you buy in your home that you plug into the wall. We also see this on some of the things we saw in the State of Union today, the big autonomous mining machines. I actually did mining for a little while too. Those things are so cool. They need a bigger picture of it just for the full size. It's 60 tons, all on these tires that are getting hot. So one of the things that product engineers kind of think about is, what's the functionality? How am I going to manage power? What kind of comms can I use to make sure that I've got enough headroom in this device? All of that is extremely important. However, as we talk more about things like green grass, the ability to change not just the functionality of the device, but really your entire ecosystem around that device, and to adapt that as we move forward, takes a lot more work from a manufacturer, from a product designer, than a catch and release model. I'm going to go over a few of the kind of concepts that Olga's going to dive a little bit more into exactly how Pitney has gone through this, which is much more interesting, and also some of the lessons that they've learned. But just to kind of cover a couple of concepts for folks who may not have that kind of gut reaction for IoT. Data coming off of these devices, that's why these devices are connected, so we can get the data. So it is the reason for IoT, particularly in connected products. But not all data is created equal. There's things that you really want to know. There's alarms. There's, hey, my beer fridge is empty. That is that is hot data. You need to know that instantly. Cold data, what's the population doing with this device? Is there a seasonal move in the way that people use the device? Is there something that we can move into our product to say, hey, during the winter time, coffee breaks tend to be longer. Are there some more automation so we can pull more of the functions together so that somebody can walk away from the device for a good 45-minute coffee break? You can see beer and coffee is kind of a theme. Dirk started that, not me. Another thing about IoT data is it's not just that it is relevant at different time scales, but also there's different data coming off of these devices. Measured data is a lot of the sensor data. That's a lot of the monitoring of that device. A lot of diagnostic health data. Hey, it's lovely when a device spends its time going, I'm healthy, still healthy, still healthy. You're paying for all of that. Also contextual information. We don't talk a lot about this in IoT yet, but it will become more and more important. Olga's going to talk a little bit about it from a data enrichment standpoint. But knowing whether 5 is good or bad means that it's a temperature, You know it's Celsius, it's Fahrenheit, it's Kelvin. Is it your dog's temperature? That'd be bad. Is it the ice cream freezer? That would be good. So that contextual information, that's a very simple example of contextual information, really helps bring the system and the processes that that IoT device is participating in, bring that down to your analytics and be able to make that part of your decision-making processes. That data doesn't tend to be hot data, and the reason is it's about coordinating across that system. There's some time extrapolation. There's a lot of analytics that need to happen to really bring in the core pieces of those contexts. Derived data, that's again kind of the actions, the insights that you put over a large data set. So this is, I've sort of generally put that into temperature categories. Of course, there's some derived data optimizations on drill heads for oil, which has to be done in, I think 20 microseconds, and you've already missed your SLA. So looking a little bit about some of the types of analytics that we grab off of connected products, and particularly behavioral analytics, getting to know your users, looking at what is some of that product impact from usage patterns. So we took a little bit of a pass at how a lot of customers, and you'll see again. I keep talking about Olga because I'm going to try to move quickly and give the floor to her. You'll see how this is done. But being able to figure out, is this cohort of users, is this something that, do I have to worry about churn? Is this cohort of users implicating that there's a different usage pattern for this device that maybe I didn't intend? Does that mean that I need to bifurcate my product? Is that something that I can, keep the product the same, market a little bit differently, maybe add a little extra value pricing on top? All of this information coming into a product manager, and by the way, product managers these days have become excellent amateur data scientists. I say amateur only because a lot of the pieces that they're managing tend to be an abstraction and a very specific point of view, whereas data scientists, at least most of the companies I've dealt with, tend to be very kind of broadly focused on data. So your domain expert is your product manager in these instances. You heard Dirk again mention a little bit about experimentation. So another thing we see when this is why you'll see a lot of Lambda in this presentation and all of our IoT presentations. Lambda gives you a chance to kind of experiment. So you can kind of write a nice little function, write a couple of them. Figure out, I'm going to try A. I'm going to watch, and this is, I'm a physicist, time 0, 5 t equals 5 t equals 30. You can actually, and I had one of our teams go through and look at a fairly simple connected product, which there's a demo kicking around with us and Salesforce, looking at solar panels. And so I had them take a look at the cleaning. So basically the demo is you got 3 solar panels, you stick your hand over one, and the system goes through a process where it's analyzing, is this thing dirty? If it's dirty, then it runs over to Service Cloud at Salesforce and says, okay, run, what's the cleanup method for this? Do I call an installer, or is there an automated program for that? In this instance, there's an automated program because we're IoT, closed loop automation, and it goes through a cleaning cycle. So what we did is we took a look at a couple of different cleaning cycles. And I wanted to see how quickly, given that we had pre-built these and wanted to do an experimental matrix, how fast could we get this done and figure out which was best. We actually thought, and then I made the guys kind of figure out which they thought. So turns out we weren't really good at guessing what we thought the right cleaning program was going to be. Our first attempt, which was the team's chance to turn around and tell me I'm wrong, that they know ahead of time and you can guess all these things, turned out to not be very good. There are a whole bunch of reasons why. That's a different talk. But basically, we were able in an hour to go through to actually collect that data to determine which of these operations worked best, and then to step back into time 2. So if we look at the other part of this, which I think Olga will also get into, is product managers are not alone. figuring out how to talk about and adapting and a living product and how it's changing out in the marketplace and how you want that product to evolve based on the data you're seeing, you've got to be able to push that out to a lot of different teams within an organization. So I put this up there really to point out that all of those systems and how you communicate that is really the effectiveness of your product being able to truly adapt. It's not just about can you come up with the best feature sets for your end user. How do you train the sales team? How do you make sure your distributors know about that product and move it out? And that actually has to be part of the IoT system. So it's not that it's a core piece of how do we do Lambda functions, but how and where are you connecting and pushing that data? And how do you make sure that those systems have an automated awareness? And by that I mean you don't have to ship an Excel file every time you come up with a new data sheet for the product. So I'm just going to quickly again set the stage a little bit for some of the design patterns that you'll see from Pitney. This is just a very basic way that we look at connected products. You'll see the API gateway up there with Identity Manager. This gives us kind of one throat to choke from the API structure standpoint so that we can use usually a connected mobile app. There are multiple applications that can hang off of this as well, from your product operations side to if this product goes into commercial environments, some of their IoT operations components, and it gives you the flexibility of being able to slice and dice the group of those APIs based on who that target audience is. This is our kind of typical AWS IoT stack. We've got devices coming in that have the SDK. You don't have to have the SDK in order to populate data into IoT. We've got devices that can send data not just to IoT, so you'll see this IP security camera. It's a very common use case where we've got streaming data that is larger than the message size. It's optimum for AWS IoT. So we'll stream the video codecs through Elastic Transcoder and directly into the product stack, directly into the application stack. And AWS IoT is handling all of the management of that device, the connected health, the command sets down to that device. We'll use the rules engine and additional Lambda functions to do some processing that's outside of that rules engine. The rules engine tends to be the routing engine within AWS IoT. We use things like DynamoDB to manage shadow, which is with the state of your device when it's offline and how you connect to it and send commands to it, as well as RDS for a lot of the raw data storage that we do. You'll also see we have different temperatures of data analytics. Kinesis streams are a great way to do sort of that hot data. How fast can you get to that, to that alarm, to that alert, to that insight? Lambda, we tend to use for the flexibility of it. Again, based on if you want to be able to test something quickly and throw it out, Lambda is a great way to do that. You can also, of course, use machine learning as well as EMR. You'll see EMR a little bit more from Pitney on how do you get some of that larger, that cooler data, some of the batch processing, predictive maintenance models. Elasticsearch we tend to use for sort of population level. If you want to know how many devices in the Northeast were affected by a storm that happened to be running a certain software version, Elasticsearch is beautiful for that. You also notice we have a bunch of other services, and this also allows our customers to bring in the services that they have. Pitney has a lot of location intelligence that they bring into the IoT ecosystem in addition to their product stacks. So I'm not going to go into this a lot. We sort of just quickly talked about this. I want to leave more time for Olga. But one of the ways that we see a lot of integration into third-party systems, which is a question I get all the time, is through functions like Lambda, where we can kind of create this closed loop. We use S3 to train our machine learning model. So you put your data into S3, you train your model, you hook it up to the rules engine to say, okay, is this customer a potential churn target? If they are, and you decide that this is a customer that's valuable enough to do something based on that pattern. I'm not a hugely valuable customer because I don't tend to spend a ton of money on most products. But if I did, you might decide to throw and upgrade the product directly. That was a little bit of a joke. I do tend to spend more than I probably should on products that will give me an automatic upgrade for being a good customer. Airline miles are a great example. Regardless, you can push that update to the device, basically through the shadow, and connect it back to, so that you can sort of do this automatic closed loop management of your end customer experience. And that's a very simple, I mean, it's not just the icon boxes that are simple. The tools are built so that they handle a lot of the interconnectivity on their own. So, enough from me. I'm going to bring up Olga Laganula, talk from Pitney Bowes, and I'll let you move on to the next slide when you want to.
Can you hear me now? All right. I'm going to give you a video to enjoy. It's 30 seconds.
It's mind-boggling. It's commerce. A world filled with complexity and chaos. A world also filled with growth and great opportunity. Get it right, you win. Get it wrong, you lose. To succeed, you need precision and accuracy. The skills of a craftsman. And the proven skills of Pitney Bowes. We've helped 1.5 million small businesses and over 90% of the Fortune 500 across the physical and digital landscape. As craftsmen, we make messages personal. We use data to find the best place to build your business. We make shipping simple, and we get statements and invoices to the right person at the right place and time. We're 15,000 men and women, creating, shaping, sharpening, refining. That's what craftsmen do. And that's what the world of commerce needs. Pitney Bowes, the craftsman of commerce.
I think this is the best way I can help you guys to understand what Pitney Bowes is and is not. How many people in the room heard the name Pitney Bowes? Okay. How many of you think that Pitney Bowes is a postage meter company? And we are. We are proud of our history, but we are so much more. Like, we often call ourselves 96 years old startup. It's because we are continuously reinventing ourselves. And right now we are in, like, 3 years in a very fascinating transformation. And the videos that you just saw explains exactly what this transformation is about. We are taking all our assets, unique assets that we have in Pitney Bowes, we are democratizing them, we are putting APIs around them, we are packaging them together in such a way that we can create much better solutions for our customers. And what we are trying to do more and more, and you saw it in this video, we were really helping our customers, like I say Facebook and eBay, to be very successful in the world of commerce. And by identifying, understanding the existing customers, identifying new opportunities, locating them, communicating with the customers, whether it's physical and digital or digital communication. We send videos, we send mail, we simplify the shipping, and we help our customers to pay using our credit cards and our financial services. That's our vision. But today we are going to talk about our iconic business. We are going to spend time talking about the meters. And it's actually very interesting to see how IoT becomes such a catalyst for transforming your most traditional business and what you can do with it, and how it transforms not only the business itself, but the whole company and our understanding of how we communicate with our customers and how we operate. In order for us to be a really, truly digital company, we identify a set of competences where we have to be really good at. And this is what you see on the bottom. And I'm going to talk a lot about it, and just give you an example through the presentations. But just to highlight, it's all about design and design thinking and really, truly understanding the customers and continuously learning what the customers want. It's about being really good at cloud enablement, be a really good SaaS company. And this is where AWS was really foundational for our transformation. We made a decision about 2 years ago. We are going to develop our new products on AWS, and we're not doing just lift and shift. So we've done some of that, but we are truly embracing the whole ecosystem with AWS managed services, and that's accelerated our ability to develop tremendously, and we're going to talk about that. Data. during these 2 years, we built the whole data lake on AWS. We brought our data sets, and we built IoT platform on top of it. And the business systems, this is one part that how many of you are from traditional companies where you actually have to deal with systems, business systems like SAP or Salesforce that have been around for a while? So part of it is when you're building an IoT system, you have to be really, really good at connecting to these business systems. Not only you have to be able to efficiently sell your devices, and that requires integration with sales and marketing, you want to be really good at understanding your customers and feeding this information to your marketing team. You also need to be very good with integrating with client care, with the field services, right? There is a whole ecosystem of the business systems. And sometimes it's not easy to do. So one of the things that we have done is really abstracting this layer of business systems so we can build our solutions and they can be really integrated in a very good and strong way, and we can do it very fast. The only other thing I want to mention here, because it's relevant to what we're going to talk about, is APIs. One of the decisions that we've made 3 years ago, it's all about API. It's API first. So everything that we do, from our core competencies to business systems, are abstracted through APIs, and this allows us to move and create new solutions faster. So this is what we are going to talk about today. Again, our iconic business. This is our customer, a real customer, looking at one of our postage meters. This is a small one. This is the existing device. So if you look at it, it's not a very glamorous environment. The typical customers that we deal with, it's mom and pop shops. It could be your dentist office. It could be a lawyer office, right? So when you walk into your dentist office and you see a friendly receptionist, that's the person that usually uses these devices. So there is no IT, there is no, and these devices have been around for 7 years. So what we saw was simple 7 years ago, I don't think we would consider simple now. Things changed. And when we looked at it, we have 2 problems. We have a brownfield problem. We have 1.5 million of these devices out there. We also have a greenfield problem. We are building new devices. We are getting them to the market. They're providing exciting functionalities that we know our customers want and need. But how do we balance it so we don't move customers too fast that they have a choice? And our goal was to make our existing devices smarter, make them simpler. Some of them are still using analog line connections. So our customers have dedicated analog lines. We wanted to move them to modern world. Like, how do you do that? So we can upgrade the systems. We can understand what the customers are doing better. So we can give them recommendations how to save money. So we can we could help them if there is a problem, immediately send them an email, say, we detected a problem. Here is a video that is going to help you to solve this problem. Very simple things like that, but we couldn't do it with analog connections. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. One of the things that we are very proud of is our design thinking that we really implemented through the whole company. We have a really fantastic and strong UX team. So every time when we think about we're going to do something new, our UX team hit the road. And this is just an example. This is our folks out there talking to the different customers. We did about all around the world, just trying to understand what would be the best way to deliver this new functionality, whether in the brown field or a green field, existing devices or new devices. Brown field, right? We talked about a little bit the problem, analog lines. We don't know what the customers are doing. They're connecting once a month. If they have a problem, how can we help them to solve the problem better? So we partnered to solve this type of problems. We partnered with a company called Electric Imp. I don't know how many of you do know about this company. Fantastic partner for us. They provide a combination of a software and hardware solutions. So this dongle that you see in this blue circle is how we connect our devices, existing devices, connected to LAN or Wi-Fi, and there is a cloud component that facilitates telemetry and also execution of the commands and communication with the devices. We use that as a way to connect the devices, and then we build the whole infrastructure, IoT, data processing on AWS with all the applications running on AWS, and I'll show you how that works in the details. The one thing that I want to mention again, when you're doing something with your 1.5 million existing customers, the one thing you want to do is do no harm, right? What you cannot do is try to simplify their life and give them something that is so difficult to do that they cannot complete the tasks. This is a very cool way to connect the devices. There is this dongle does not have any keypads or anything like that. How do you program it? So Electric Imp has a technology called Blink Up. So you take the dongle and you bring it to your screen. You can see it over there, and it transmits the information to the device by flashing light, which is pretty cool. But the first time we gave it with the instructions that we provided to our customers, they had about 40% satisfaction rate, which is not good. So it's our experimentation prior to releasing products, of course. And we got it to 99%. So just going back to the design thinking and making the right thing. And then we have these new devices coming up, and they are sending devices. So it's not about mailing anymore, it's about shipping. And if you look at our Commerce Cloud strategy, it's going beyond that, right? So we really want to do what we've done always, the mailing, but also get smarter about how to deliver new functionality using the same devices. They have Androids on them, so it's a full-blown Android tablet. So there are a lot of things we can do now, and we can use Amazon IoT because they are capable. These devices are capable of running the SDK. So going back to what Sarah said, when you're trying to come up with what you're going to do with your IoT devices, what you think originally you're going to do is not necessarily that what you end up doing. And there is a lot of learning that is happening through the process. And as a result of it, your architecture absolutely has to be able to support this experimentation, right, wrong, let me try this, okay, it doesn't work, let me try something else. It's been incredibly important for us through our journey. So what you see here, it says IoT strategy. It's not necessarily IoT strategy. It's what we are doing today, right? I think if you think about IoT strategy and what's possible out there, what we really want to do collectively as people who embrace design thinking and empathy, we want to make SMB owners' life easier, right? But you have to start somewhere, and this is a starting point. So before you go and get to the point when you say, Alexa, ship ship the Christmas gifts to my top 10 customers, or maybe you leave and you say, Alexa, pay my taxes too. I don't know, but you have to start doing simple things, right? And the simple things are, how can we simplify so the customers don't have to initiate the software update, so they get the rates updated? Can we help them with automated supply replenishment? There is ink there, right? Can we help them save the money too in the process? Can we sell them notifications just in time so they can understand how to fix it? And the most dear to us is, can we help them with the personalized recommendations? So we can help them to save money essentially, and say, if you only did that, we see with the volumes that you're generating of the mail or the shipping. If you tried to use different service, if you did this, you use different envelope, that's how much money you could save. And this is part for the client. There is also the whole part of your call center. In reality, by doing this, your company is doing better too. Like, you're saving money as well. You are getting smarter. You can understand you can remotely manage your devices. You could proactively detect the problems. You can understand the pattern of usage and say, oh, yes, we know that this device is pretty much needs service. It will need service pretty soon. And you can open the tickets automatically with your service folks. Our journey in IoT actually started with the data. all this recommendation stuff, and there was things that I was talking about, we started there because we did have some data from our customers already. So this, going back to the recommendations, even through analog lines, we were able to get some data once a month, not so great, but we were able to do that. Starting with what you know and learning from that was incredibly helpful for us because at the end we were able to understand what else do we need to do, what other data sources we have to collect. This is just our overall kind of architecture for our data lake, for our spatial platform, which we believe completely critical for everything that we do in analyzing the data and bringing geo context to our data processing, and then IoT platform on the top. The one thing I do want to mention, and Sarah had really hit it, there are so many consumers of your data, and the more relevant you can be to your consumers of the data, the more successful you will be in the company introducing IoT or any other initiatives like that. Let me just jump into the architecture because I think the time is precious, and I hope we are going to have some time for Q&A. We talked about green field and a brown field. I'm going to slow down a little bit here because there are a lot on the slides. The first slide, I'm just going to show you how the architecture for our brown field deployment looks like. So this is our existing meters with a dongle connecting to electric imp. Electric imp has its own secured private protocol. There is a certificate which pretty much is embedded in the physical device. By the way, we are printing money, so it's really, really important for us to be very, very secure in all our communications. Electric imp is connecting to Kinesis Stream on AWS. We have multiple Lambda functions subscribed to the Kinesis Stream. And this is where we have to think about all the considerations about hot data, warm data, cool data, and cold data. We're going to talk about it as well in the future slides. But this flow, connect, collect, process the data, and enrich the data, and then decide what you want to do with the data, how you are going to act on it, whether it's automating things or serving information to other applications or providing insights and analysis. I think it's a very common pattern that at least we have seen with a lot of companies that we talked about. The real cool about it is almost like a Lego blocks, right? You can assemble them one way and then you can reassemble them another. Let me show you how we are assembling it now by adding our greenfield and AWS IoT to the picture. So new devices capable of, we have much more flexibility of how to change them and what we run on them. So they run Java SDK connecting to IoT device gateway, rule engine, and device. So device shadow now can play a role of DynamoDB and keep the configuration. Rule engine, it's a fantastic new capability for us. But what we also could do, we could also put it back in Kinesis Stream, and at the beginning just start using the functionality that we already have, and then building on top of it. Just going a little bit into details. The one thing I did want to mention, the whole process for us of going from concept of providing IoT for our existing devices, for the brownfield, to actually building the whole software part of it and getting it into the market took about 7 months. I don't think we would be able to do it without AWS. It was just such an accelerator of everything that we've done. And I just, Surya, wave your hands. We have Surya Sagi, who is sitting in front, and we'll bring him later on stage. But Surya is Surya runs the development team who does big data lake and our data platform and also our IoT platform. So if you have more questions at the end, we'll be happy to go into as many details as you want technically. We talked about a lot of this functionality already. The one thing that, just let's talk about greenfield a little bit. For the greenfield connections, we're using MQTT protocol between devices and AWS IoT. It's secure communication using X509 certificate. I think I pretty much talked about majority of the way we connect already. Want to give you a little bit of information how different Lambda functions, how do we think about hot and cold, and how do we use all these different services, and what do we use them for. So all the configuration information from the devices, we are storing it in the brown field. We are storing it in DynamoDB. It's all JSON format, so if we want to plug in new devices that have completely different configuration, we can do it easily. Elasticsearch, back to what Sarah was saying, we're using Elasticsearch to do ad hoc queries. Elasticsearch is fantastic for things like that. So if we want to know how many meters came online yesterday, how many meters were experiencing problem, this ad hoc queries we are running against Elasticsearch, and it does save us a lot of money. It's more expensive to do it with DynamoDB. And so after that, what you see, Lambda functions that picks the data and getting it into Amazon S3. This is our cold data. This data goes later into the data lake, so we could do additional analysis, additional analytics with all the data that we are bringing in, contextual geo data, data about our customers, data about our customers, so we can bring it all together and provide really good personalized insights to our customers. We can provide recommendations to our services folks, client care, and the product management, to be honest, how our customers are using products and what does and what doesn't work. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed something. So Kinesis for us is solving a problem of large ingestion of large number of data, and it's doing it fantastically. We are bringing these devices online in not all of 1.5 million at the same time, right? It comes in waves. We're only using Kinesis as much as we need. We're only using Lambda as much as we need. Again, it's a very cost-efficient way for us to process the data and also to experiment. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Don't know if you're going to attempt doing the similar things, but it's been really a life-saving experience for us. And then I think it's also goes and illustrates how flexible this architecture is. And I think I've been in this business for a long time, and you look how easy it is now to combine these Lego pieces. We never had anything like that before. So one thing that we have in Kinesis, we keep data for 7 days, right? And that's saved our life once. We really managed to push one of the updates to our devices that introduced a problem. And the problem was that the XML the device is pushing up got corrupted. And so the data was not coming just exactly the way we needed to get it. And we have CloudWatch monitoring all the streams. And so we detected the problem really, really fast. We understood the problem exists. We debugged it very quickly. We identified what happened. And so while the team was pushing a new software update to our devices, we didn't lose any data because we were able to bring up one new Lambda function that was just looking at this malstructured XMLs and just fixing them as they were going through them. very, very cool way. Kinesis provided all this backup. Nothing was lost. Very, very, very easy recovery. The other thing that might be a useful tip if you're just experimenting with Lambda, Lambda supports multiple languages. So what you pick to do certain things might affect your performance. So one of the things that we tried is, because our old devices are sending data in XML, we have to constantly convert from XML to JSON, and we picked originally Node.js as a way to do that, and it was slow. You convert it to Java, it's much faster. So it pays off to experiment. And finally, going to building the services and building the applications, which is the whole point of building the whole infrastructure to start with. We use Docker in order to deploy our microservices that you see in automate, serve information, and analyze a part of this diagram. We use Beanstalk, so we don't have to worry about scaling up, scaling down. Very, very convenient. We actually have a very small group of people who are able to put all this infrastructure together in a very, very short period of time. And the flexibility of the whole and stability of the whole system has been really, really great. So what's really important, and we are learning and changing this constantly, working with our stakeholders. Its ability to add these applications and deliver them to your clients, instrument them to understand how the clients are using it, add new functionality as needed to provide additional features to the clients. But what we've learned the most, it's a really interesting process for the whole organization to start seeing this data flowing in real time. And when we started this discussion about IoT, it was all about experimentation. We are not quite sure where the value is. So the whole idea of start seeing the data and putting it in front of your business stakeholders, just seeing the map of all these devices and showing the portal and saying, okay, look, you now can really understand how the client is using the devices, what the errors occurred during last 30 days. This is how you could do your job better, client care or services, because we are going to show you everything that we know about the client. It has been very transformational for the company. So once you start seeing what's a possibility, your whole company becomes really hungry for the data and for the knowledge. And you start getting really, really great ideas from your stakeholders. But it's an iterative process, and learning is a really, really big part of it. That speaks to this last point. This process of collecting data, enriching data, analyzing, deliver insights, act and automate, it's all goes in circle, and every single part of the organization is transforming and learning as part of it. Since we've been on this journey, I just wanted to tell you, not just because we are a great company, which we are, but I think it just indicates how industry really reacts to successful IoT implementation. We had a lot of awards and from IoT World Congress for Smart Link implementation, for our design thinking approach, for our use of winner of the Innovator Awards at Octane. A lot of this stuff is really done through with the help of our partners. A lot of success that we had was learning from the customers, learning from our partners like AWS, like Apigee, or Okta. The whole learning experience for us, I think it's part of our DNA now, and I think that's why we are really, really proud of what we were able to accomplish. Sarah, do you want to add anything?
I was sending out a tweet. Ooh. And apparently I can't walk upstairs. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of quickly, we've heard a lot with the State of the Union, kind of talking about things like, there we go. Things like green grass, and the new console and some dashboards that we're coming out with, as well as the enterprise button. All of these are announcements that came out and kind of feed into the concept of living products. Green grass takes the functionality of Lambda, that flexibility, the agility to be able to do those changes, takes that same programming model and puts that local. Now all of your cloud devs can do that same functionality down on the device. Also provides a local shadow and some of that rules capability. Dashboards, as Olga pushed out, there's a lot of folks who have a stake in IoT, making sure that the data that we're providing and that we're helping to support has that context for each of those different stakeholders. We're looking at how can we expand what we do and how we present data and the tools that we provide folks like Pitney Bowes to be able to do that more quickly out of the box. That allows our customers to experiment with getting something out, playing with it, seeing where it goes, and then diving in on all of the details and how they want to customize that. It's kind of, I consider kind of training wheels. An enterprise button is just cool. We've got a lot of internal use cases. One of the greatest things about working at AWS thus far is that we've got Amazon next door. And so when I say, hey, what are we going to use enterprise button for? Beer's cool. But I really like something that has a humanitarian impact. Go around and I knock on a few doors, and soon enough, somebody in supply chain says, hey, could we use it to do this? So you'll see more and more from us on how to use some of these things. Enterprise button for me, by the way, it gets a lot of flack from some of the IoT community for being a very simple thing. It has no screen. That's cool. How many screens do we look at? It's a button. It's very, very simple, but it doesn't have a screen. That's the other cool thing about Alexa and some of the combinations of technologies. If IoT is really going to become ubiquitous, we're going to need to figure out how it becomes part of the backdrop and part of how we build it into our lives, rather than constantly having it yell at us. And that's a big piece of figuring out how customers and users want to go ahead and use that.